Hello and welcome back to 1000 Gurus, where we share the stories and life lessons from people of all walks of life, and I'm your host, JR Yonocruz. Today's guest is Ramy Sidhom. Ramy is an early career physician with a few board certifications who still tries to dance as much as possible and travel the world whenever possible. He is social, extroverted, and loves a good meal with good company. He believes that people are good and God provides what we need to make it through this world. So I say this all the time, but I absolutely love this episode. But more specifically, I don't think it's a stretch to say that this conversation with Ramy is easily in my top 10, maybe top 5 of all time for the show so far. It was such a good excuse to ask Ramy onto the show to catch up and reconnect with him, as I remember him as one of the guys from my college days who had the presence, disposition, and mindsets for an ideal top-tier guest for my show. You'll find out why when we get into it. We get into how and why he has had so many varying interests over the years, his path to pursuing medical school, even while on a competitive dance team, advice on making it through med school, as well as overall career advice. We talk about his enthusiasm for travel and lessons learned about himself as a solo traveler, and then we end with one of the most wisdom-packed rapid fires in recent 1000 Gurus history. I swear, each answer that Ramy gave was like a TED Talk, and I just really appreciate how he thinks, his values, his character, and hopefully you guys can get a glimpse of that and why he's had such a positive impact on the people around him. So, without further ado, please enjoy this episode with Dr. Ramy Sidhom, MD. Hello and welcome back to 1000 Gurus. Ramy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. It makes me feel like I have something important to say or something.
Nice. You do have something important to say because I am so curious and intrigued. Not sarcastically. I know that sounds sarcastic, but yes. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Now you're just coming straight from work. You said you're coming from Long Beach, right?
Yeah.
Like from where you work.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it worked out. I think most of my show is usually now virtual, but it's nice to have a good excuse. And we haven't caught up in years. I know we've bumped into each other, but I'm happy to have you on and figure out what your profession is because we don't know what it is. So we'll see. But yeah, thank you for being here. Let me go into how I know you. So Ramy and he is another Kaba Modern alumni. So I think that's a recurring theme on the show. Maybe I'll make a playlist of all the Kaba Modern people. But so, yeah, we started dancing when I went to UCI. Wait, you went to UCI?
Yeah.
You went to UCI. And when I was a first year, a newbie on the team, it was 2010. And I think, you danced that year, but next year as well, right? So your old year?
Yeah, and a little bit of super old years.
Okay,
so it's like 3.5 years for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, so Ramy is a year senior to me on the team, but kind of like all the, here's now a random train of thought, but well, we went into this with Arnell a little bit, but you know how the Kaba Modern culture, and it's like we have the leaders and then the oldies and then the returners and the newbies, and it's kind of like a family in that sense, where it's the newbies are like the babies and then the returners like the older brothers and sisters, and the oldies are like the parents. So I think exactly, yeah. So there's a culture of discipline, and what I learned from Arnell, it's probably rooted in Filipino culture, where it's like respect your elders no matter what. But what I did appreciate about that is, one, my class, we got really close as like siblings, and that's kind of baked into the structure of how our culture is. But also, I did always respect the classes above mine, like our returners, because regardless of our dance background and our skill levels, there's always that sort of level of respect that I really appreciated. And then the oldies and the super oldies, and how it's a weird thing, and I'm going on a tangent now, how I felt like I could always tell how long they've been on the team by how good of a dancer they were. And that's kind of a generalization, but I'm like, okay, this person's definitely an oldie because they're so good. This is a super oldie. They are very good. And this is a returner. They're way better than me. And so it's kind of funny how that kind of goes. But
that's interesting because I feel like that kind of stopped with your class.
Oh, yeah.
You guys had so many talented dancers. And I think, maybe it's because I was a returner and now I was suddenly not a newbie. And I would look at you guys and say, wow, they're so good. Like, they don't look like newbies. So I feel like after that, everyone just was so good that it didn't matter anymore.
That's true. Yeah.
I think too, the class above me, like, newbies were in pieces, they were in the front. And so it kind of started to break down that hierarchy, which I think is probably for the best. But
yeah, definitely. And people come in with different skill levels, because even within my class, I mean, I was talking to Alex Hung about this, but I was like, I felt like I was the worst dancer. And we all had similar experiences because we would look at like Alex Cristal and we're like, okay, well, you're clearly number one, so get out of here. And he's just laughing, and everyone's trying to keep up. But right, that's how you see things when you come in.
That's funny. His brother was a number one in our class.
So there you go. There he is. It's the Cristal supremacy there. But yeah, so I think that was very interesting. And I think even then, what I learned a lot from Kaba Modern is it's such a that first year is so formative because it really solidified how I see everything and how I brought it into the future classes or future things that I've done.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that a lot. And so I don't even know what I was going into. Yeah. So Kaba Modern. So I think
Yeah.
maybe this is what I'm trying to say is that's how I see you, and that's the type of space that you hold in my brain and in my
Yeah.
heart is like you are my returner. No matter we're alumni and it's
Yeah,
been
yeah,
like
yeah.
years and years, but that's kind of how I see you.
Yeah. I
Cool.
think it set up this notion of we were your protectors because we didn't want you to be mistreated. Like we felt like maybe we were misunderstood. So I think we felt very protective of your class. Want to make sure you guys had a good experience, that you guys knew what to do and knew what to do not to get in trouble. So I feel like your class, I feel that way about them still, even though it's been a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think as I did my reflections with my last couple of guests too, it's the same thing where we had a good experience in college. And now the dance team that I'm on, my last 7.5 years has been the same thing where I want to help create a good space better than the experience that I've had because you always want to make it better for the next generation.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's directly because of you guys teaching us that and showing us by example. And then now in my new dance spaces, I try to do the same thing. Where I'm like, okay, well, we can make this better and I can make sure that the things that had happened in the past now can improve upon for the future.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the good thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was talking, do you know Little B, Brian Perez? So he's a really big locker, but we were talking about Arnell a lot because, Arnell is super big into locking to what Little B
Yeah.
says. He's like, yeah, Arnell's like the biggest locking fan. He'll go into, he's like, I love you guys. And he's like,
Yeah.
I love Arnell's spirit.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how obviously Arnell does a lot for dance spaces and how we should all aspire to be like an Arnell in our own dance space. And so just to bring it all back, it's Arnell, Kaba Modern, bring it to us, and then our own spaces.
Yeah.
So just I guess a good shout out, kudos to everyone.
Yeah. He's so good at bringing gratitude into everything he does. It's like an active superpower that he has.
Mm.
Always gratitude, always brings out the positive in things. Very rarely does he show up to a situation and not say something positive, which ripples because he has a lot of authority. So when he says something like that, it matters.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Shout out to Arnell, but that's like the
Yeah,
third shout
I
out you got. I think I need to have him back on
I'm
the
sure
show.
it won't be the last.
And also, I have your sunglasses. I'm so sorry. He left it here, and I still haven't given it back to him.
Do you want me to give it to him? I'm going to see him at rehearsal next week.
That might be a good idea. Let's talk after this. Or maybe I just use it as a bait and be like, hey, I need to give you back. So cool. So, all right. So, yeah, Kaba Modern class, K10, also had Andy Ho, Wei Liu, Arnell himself. And we never really got to connect over your professional career. I know you're a doctor. Wait, what? You're a doctor? Oh. Anyways, yeah, so I do remember that during our Kaba Modern days, we did have some insightful chats, but I think also that your reputation is like, we'll be dancing and all of a sudden someone will just be in the corner talking to Ramy. Like, he's like, man, I just learned a bunch of stuff from Ramy. It's like, yeah, that's who he is. So that's what I remember from my Kaba Modern days. And yeah, you're always very kind. You're always very calming presence, very wise and very liked by everyone, especially in that sort of college dance space. You were like still the same, I'd imagine the same person you are today is like very calm, mature and wise. And it's another thing I appreciate about you. And so now that's done. I'm done with my spiel. Any clarifications? What are you even up to, man?
Well, I just remember that you paved your own experience through Kaba. I think you definitely did things your own way, but you were like there for the ride. You signed up for it and you were like, all right, good, bad, or ugly, I'm taking all of it. And then you just felt like you just went through it differently than other people. And I remember feeling this sense of let's not try to influence his path too much. Leave him alone if he wants to be left alone. Let him do what he wants. Trying to just kind of create that space around you so that you could have that experience. Just, again, being the returner for you. And I just, it's funny because I was listening to one of these podcasts before and someone brought up the not with that attitude thing that you would always say. And that was like your tagline. And it has been something that has continued to stay in my life and think about. And I'm like, oh, it's, you say it jokingly, but not really, So that's kind of what I remember you to be. You were always very intentional about what you were doing, how you thought about things. You were very insightful. You thought about everything. You respected everyone's opinion as a way for you to learn and grow. And I thought that was a really nice way to exemplify curiosity in your life. So that's kind of what I remember about you. And I feel like you're the same having this, like how could you not be?
Yeah. It just kind of manifested a little bit more or became a little bit more focused or sharper or something like that. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So if nothing else, let's go into our first topic, which is always origin story, influences, whatnot. So jumping off points, where did you grow up and what were your biggest influences?
So I grew up in Anaheim, California. That's where I was born in Chicago and then moved to Anaheim when I was 3. Grew up there, spent my whole life pretty much in that house. My family had a house in Anaheim Hills. And I didn't leave until I went to med school in Denver. So I was at UCI for undergrad. I was at Fullerton Troy High School for high school. I started learning about different cultures and dancing in high school. And I think that's really where I started to develop, oh, these are things that Ramy likes. These are things that, different than my cousins, different than my other friends. So I got involved with Indian dancing and Filipino dancing and hip hop dancing and like all these things in high school. I did ASB. Turns out I'm social. I think I spent most of my middle school and elementary years being very introverted, and I didn't really have very many friends. But I didn't notice it. That sounds like it could be very angsty, but I was pretty happy. I just didn't know I didn't have friends until I got friends and got social in high school. And my parents, even to this day, like I remember, like I'm 37 now, and for my 35th birthday, I had people over, and they're still like, "Wow, you have friends." Like I've had friends for a long time, but to them, it's still they still remember that little boy. So I started going to dance stuff. I started going to my own church. I was going to church with my parents, and then I wasn't liking it as much. So I went with Alex and Marco, and same, it's also a Catholic church, but I kind of did it for myself, and I started making friends there. And so I kind of started to forge my own path through these things. And, at the time it didn't seem like that big of a thing, but I've carried a lot of those pathways to this day. I still do a lot of things culturally, now less so on different clubs. I'm not part of a Filipino club anymore. I'm not part of the Indian club anymore, but I do go to cultures and I listen to music and I eat the food and I do all these things. It's seeped its way into my life. Dance, I think I've given up dance, I don't know, a half dozen times already, and then it keeps finding its way back. And also those relationships that I've made with those people, even in high school, I'm still friends with to this day. And that has kind of been I don't know, a main line that I've held on to that has helped me kind of see the world and experience the world. So that was kind of where I think I started to develop the things that I like, and I've kept them. And I feel very fortunate to have had such a good high school experience that was so comfortable and not so, again, angsty. I was pretty happy, but there wasn't a lot that happened that made me feel down on myself, and it was a very supportive environment, and I've carried that forward. And then college was so much fun. I went to UCI because I knew they had a really good bio program and I wanted to go to med school. But also they had a really good dance scene. And I would just watch Kaba Modern and CADC and, Common Ground and all these things at the time, and TM. And I wanted to be part of it, but I wasn't dancing at the time, so I didn't think I could be. So I joined, and it was a lot of fun. I was going to be a double major. I was going to do philosophy. I was going to do philosophy and bio.
Yeah.
But I felt like I was a horrible writer and I wouldn't get good grades and not get into med school. So I gave up on that dream. And then I just trained a lot to make it onto these dance teams. I got rejected a few times and then finally got on to Common Ground for a year. I was on Underground for half a year before that. And then I decided to make the switch to come to Kaba. And I think being on that team, kind of with the structure that you mentioned, really gave me opportunity to develop thicker skin and grow confidence. And I think I needed that. And I've carried that with me forward. Then I went to med school, and that was a whole mess. Not mess, but it was a whole process, and it was difficult and harder now in retrospect than when I was going through it. I think you just kind of do these things and you don't really think about it, maybe as a defense mechanism, but went to med school, moved away for the first time. And I remember actually we were at Hip Hop Internationals in Vegas and we were competing. We made it to finals. And then, I left that night and everyone came into the parking lot to wish me goodbye. And people were crying and I was getting emotional. And then I just left, drove home to California, packed my bags, and then said goodbye to dance and went to med school. And that was hard. And then that kind of was a different chapter of my life. And now I'm a physician. I work in a hospital. I take care of patients. And, I think was always scary that I would let go of all these things that I loved so much. And I have found that I've been able to keep up with most of those things. And that's kind of where I'm at now. Yeah. I think I skipped over the last 15 years, but it's been trying to get to where I'm at, med school and residency and fellowship and another fellowship. And it all is this long, arduous process. And then you get to the point where you are now working, and I'm an attending now and I work and I have a very stable life. And it's weird almost because of how stable it is, but I'm enjoying it.
Nice. Okay, there's a lot of different things in there that I really like, which thanks for sharing. I want to go back to more in the beginning half of that, but so what drew you to medicine? What drew you to dance? And then why the philosophy? I'm just curious about
Uh,
those, like what drew you into those
yeah.
things?
Well, the medicine thing, I always was interested in things like, you'd watch like cartoons on TV. I would find like TLC and they'd have like True Stories ER or I don't know, different surgical things. And I would like always love to watch that. Like my dad's anesthesiologist. And I remember he used to, so he like puts people to sleep like before surgeries. And I think when I was younger, he would have like recordings of surgeries that he was going to be part of and he would watch them to kind of like review. And I would get into his videos and watch them when I was little. So I've always been interested in medicine and how the body works. And it's like this unifying thing that everybody has, We all have different experiences. We all have different influences. We all have different privileges and barriers. Like we all have a heart. We all have a liver, And
Crazy news to
we
me,
all
man.
get sick. We all have like things that bleed. So to me, it was just kind of this cool thing. So I always liked it. So that was kind of how I got into it. I think I was lucky to have a lot of people in my life that did medicine and were involved with it. We'd visit my dad in the hospital. So I always grew up liking it. As for dance, it's kind of, the people I looked up to most were great dancers. It's like Marco, Alex, Dale, like all these people. And I was like, oh, I want to be like them. This is so cool. This is something that like I can't do. Like everything else in my life that I would try, like I could do. And then when it came to dance, I just was not that good. I would never get select group. I would never like, I wasn't making it onto the teams, like all this stuff. And it was something that I wanted to work on and wanted to get feedback on. And it became like just really kind of addictive to try to level up and get better at dancing and ask for feedback and, make it onto this team and make it into this piece and now learn this dance style, like all this stuff. So that's kind of how I got into it. You'd watch videos when YouTube first came out and you're like, wow, this is amazing. Oh, it would be so cool to look like that. And then I think the social part of it kept me into it.
Right.
Then it became, like you mentioned, I'd always be in the corner, like talking to somebody. That was my role on these teams. I was not a choreographer. I was not the person that was going to be in the front center. You're not going to remember me dancing on stage, but like I developed good relationships with people and I tried to make sure everyone had a good experience and I learned from people. And that became kind of the best part of dancing. And then the philosophy part, that was just a whim. Honestly, I was just like reading books about philosophy and people's ways of seeing things. And it's so interesting to hear like how people formulate their thoughts. Because I think at that point you realize, wow, not everyone thinks like me. Huh. Wow.
The philosophy thing is a real like thing because when someone says, oh, I'm interested in philosophy, that's not really a thing that you hear because to hear about someone who like wants to think about things or how things are thought about and you're like pursuing it possibly as a major, I'm like, oh, well, where did that come from?
Yeah.
But it does kind of line up, I guess.
I was just fascinated how like people thought about things, because it's, I think I realized pretty early on, like everybody is pretty different and we all have different opinions, but like, I think everybody kind of speaks to their truth and lives their truth. If I'm like, if you and I feel very politically like at odds and we don't feel the same way about things, like you're coming to it because you're thinking of it in a way that is real and true and makes sense to you. And I'm coming to a completely different conclusion that is real and makes sense to me. And like, how do we get to that point? I think it helps you understand people. It helps you have a lot less like hate and negativity towards people if you understand like where they're coming from. So I think that's why the philosophy thing was such a draw to me at the time.
It makes sense. It's like there's an empathy component to that where it's, if you understand philosophically how people think and why they're different and you can have a little bit more acceptance, understanding about that or the reality that we are very different based on our experiences, the way we're wired, etc., then those interactions are a little bit more, conducive or whatever.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
That's the hope, at least.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Obviously people are more complicated than that.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. Okay, so you were trying a lot of things, exposed to a lot of things, very interested, very curious person. Dance was there, that a little bit of philosophy, medicine has always been there, and it was kind of like you felt it was the sort of set path. You felt like you were made for it, etc. It seems, and that's mostly been your career. I'm curious on the. I mean, well, even the whole pursuing medical school while being on a comp team is pretty
Yeah,
insane.
that
Like
was
I
wild.
wouldn't recommend it. All of my friends who have done similar things, right? Like trying to go to apply to grad school or anything like
Yeah,
that. I'm like, I don't know
that was
how.
wild.
I want to ask specifically biggest challenges on the way there, but
Yeah,
also maybe in medical school,
yeah,
and then any unexpected turning points.
yeah. So I think I realized pretty early on that I thrive when I'm busy. Like
That checks out.
I like to have like many different hats that I put on in a day. And I remember like in college, I would have 4 different outfits in the car because I would go to the hospital, do research, then I'd go to class, then I would like teach the Moro suite at like Kaba Modern at UCI because I was like the suite director. Then I would go to rehearsals for Kaba and then we'd go eat at Jack in the Box and I'd go home and sleep for 3 hours and do it again. And everyone thought I was crazy, but like I was doing well in all those things. And then
Which is
if
pretty
I like,
crazy
it's crazy. But then like
in
when I
another
would
way.
only have one thing, like for example, when I was studying for my MCAT, this like test you have to take to like get into med school. And I like stopped everything and was just studying for the test. And it was miserable. And I would get lower and lower grades. And then 2 weeks before the test, I turned 21. I had my 21st birthday on Kaba Modern that day. They had a big party for me. I went and just saw everybody. And then I left because I had MCAT class in the morning. And then they continued to celebrate me without me being there.
Ramy, this is for you wherever you are.
It was great. And I remember going to HHI and being at the pool. Everyone's like kind of sunning. And I had a box of books that I carried around and I would have that. And I would
Vegas?
be studying in Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were like, how are you going to take this test? Like HHI is coming. You shouldn't go to HHI. And I was like, no, I want to go. I want to be there. I had so much FOMO.
Yeah.
I
I was
want to
about
be
to say,
there.
that's so FOMO.
It's so FOMO. I wasn't even dancing. I was just supporting the oldies.
That's awesome.
But I did really well, like God blessed me with a decent score, way higher than any practice test I got. And I was like,
Wow.
this was not my doing. This was, thank you.
Yeah.
But I applied and I almost didn't make it. I applied to, I think it was 56 schools because my score was going to expire. I didn't know that I didn't have anybody to mentor me in med school. All of my family members went to med school outside of the country, so they didn't know the process. I didn't have any like older friends to really ask, so I didn't know that my test was going to expire.
Oh.
So it was going to expire if I didn't get in that cycle. And my grades were not amazing. They were good enough, but they were not amazing. So I was really scared I was going to not make it. So I applied to 56 schools. It cost thousands of dollars. I was like eating ramen and not going on dates and just like saving money to apply. And I got into one school.
Wow. Oh, sorry. Is that okay? I've never applied to medical school. But how
That's so
common is
much.
that?
Usually people are applying to like 10 or 15.
Okay. And they get into at least one?
I mean, I don't know. It depends. Some people, it takes them a couple cycles to get in.
Okay.
But usually if you get in, you get a few acceptances.
I see.
I got one.
Wow.
And I got it early in the cycle and it was a really good school. And I was like, again, this is not my doing. This is God. Thank you. But it was very stressful because had I not gotten in, I would have had to change paths. And I'd never thought about a different path. I just kind of went with it, And I got in, I left, I got there, and I remember having this moment like, what am I doing here? Do I really want to do this? Why do I want to do this? What's motivating me? Yes, I like the subject matter, but the day-to-day work, like the actual process, is this going to be what I want? And it was really hard. I was living alone for the first time. I didn't know a single person in Colorado. It was pretty depressing. I felt like all my FOMO, like all my friends were back here. I was watching videos of everybody doing their thing, and I was like not
Coming
part
from
of
like
it.
going to doing everything to now completely isolated.
I was just studying, and it was really hard. And turns out I didn't know how to study. I had made it through college like cramming the night before, and like you can't do that in med school. But I never learned how I studied best to actually learn, and that was really hard to try to learn how to learn when you're in med school. And they use this analogy like you're drinking through a fire hose. You just turn on the fire hose, you open your mouth, and just like all this knowledge you're supposed to get. And, it was hard. And it took me probably the first year to figure out how to study appropriately. And, I went to such a good school that like everyone else was so much smarter than me. I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like I was not, like I didn't belong there. I didn't feel like I was smart enough like these people. I wasn't getting good scores enough like these people. And, it was kind of hard, like for the first time in my life, like studying has always been easy for me. And that was not Then I started actually working in the hospital, and there was like an aha moment where I was like, "Oh, thank God, I actually love this. Like, I love talking to people. I love the medicine and explaining medicine to people. That's like things that are happening to their body and taking it and making it like real in a way that they understand, you know? And like these are the like scariest times in people's lives most of the time. And for you to be there and for them to lean on you and be a supportive and a good force in that moment, that's a lot of power and it's a big honor. And I felt that and I enjoyed that. And then I knew I was like, oh, okay, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do. I love it. Then I, came back. I did my internal medicine residency, and again, I loved it. I had a great time. Everyone else kind of complained. You're working like 80 hours a week. You're getting paid like less than minimum wage when it comes down to hours, and everyone's like, "Oh, the life of a resident is so hard and miserable, and it's terrible." And like, yes, but I had a good time. I enjoyed what I was doing. I was still dancing. I remember Kaba had like a throwback set, and like I did one with them at Vibe one year, the kids set. And, I was still doing that. I was hanging out with my friends most days of the week, go to work, and it was fun. I enjoyed it.
One thing I wanted to ask, well, I have 3 questions, but why do you think, and more of, I guess, an introspective question, why do you think that doing one thing or focusing made you miserable? I know maybe inherently that's just some people are wired to want to juggle a lot of things. And then two, it totally makes sense how being isolated after doing all that kind of made you feel that way. But you said that you learned how to study. Is there anything that you think is insightful to explain to the audience of what clicked for you when you figured out that sort of studying?
Yeah. Answer the first question. The idea of why doing a lot of things is helpful for me. I always like variety. And I think if I'm just doing one thing, I get bored of it, or I get in my head about it, or I get, kind of down about it. And so it helps to switch to something else and to like focus like a different part of your brain or a different part of your body. It's like if you just work out biceps, it's never going to grow. You have to do like shoulders and back and like all biceps, like all this area to like get it to grow. Same thing. I had to like dance. I had to like be good in my spirituality. I had to be good with my family. I had to do research, study. Like it just was easier to switch over if things were not going well. So I think that's why I like doing a lot.
It's more balanced, right? Because holistically, there are certain, if you just focus on fitness, but neglect your family, your spirituality, everything else, right? It doesn't, but if you're able to switch, it kind of activates and it rests that other part of your brain to go over to this side, maybe like
Yeah,
creativity.
I feel like it. Yeah. Or like you can pull yourself up from the other things that you're good at if one thing is not so great. But if you're focusing on the one thing and it's not going great, what do you do? Even now I have kind of a hybrid role as a physician. I have 4 different board certifications. Usually people have 1 or 2. I was indecisive, it felt like, but I created a career for myself where I get to do a lot of different things in my day-to-day work. And that makes it really fun for me. Like I enjoy it a lot more because I can do this and I can do that.
As
So,
opposed to like really deep specialization.
well, I am like a specialist,
Gotcha, but
but
just
like in a
multiple.
couple things.
Okay, yeah.
So I get to do that deep specialization in a couple things and like
So you're just built that way.
kind of. And like, but it's funny because that stuff started in college, right? I didn't realize it's like who I am. And then when things were not going well, I went back to doing that and then it went much better. So I do a lot of variety. I like variety. So it's good.
Yeah.
And then the other question you were asking about,
Studying.
Insights to studying.
Yeah.
I didn't really sit and think about like how I retain knowledge and really analyze what makes me remember something, what makes me forget something, what things am I having a hard time understanding, what things are easier for me, and then figuring out those patterns. So I learned early on that I had to write everything down. So I would write everything down. Whereas at that time, everyone had laptops and you'd use your computer, and I would print out the notes, I'd highlight them, I'd write it over and over again, and that's how I were memorized. And I would speak out loud to myself. I learned I was a verbal processor, which is probably why I talked so much. I talk out loud, and that's how I figure things out. I'm not good at keeping it in my brain. So in learning in the same way, if I'll like talk to the wall and just be like, oh, this is what's happening. And I will talk about like how the blood courses through the body, or like how this disease happens and this medication, how it works. And I was able to memorize it a lot better. So once I figured that out, it was much easier.
Okay. All right. So now three parts, 3 next questions are, what are your board certifications or specialties? Again, someone who knows nothing about medicine, I'm curious about that. Two, advice for people who are on similar tracks where they think they want to be a doctor, go to medical school, etc. Any general advice there? And then we can loop it back after that to the whole career advice, like how to figure
Yeah.
out.
Well, my first board certification was internal medicine. So that is generally like, I think of it as like organs, how organs work. Your body has like infections, bleeding things, just kind of more systemic things in your body. So they're usually the ones that are in the hospital taking care of you if you have like a kidney injury or you have a pneumonia or you have, most things you're in a hospital for, an internist will be helping you with that. It's a lot of numbers. I love numbers. I love numbers. I love data points. It's a lot of interpreting blood tests, like all that stuff. So that was the first one. That's kind of the stepping stone, the entry. That's the residency. Then after that, I specialized into pulmonary and critical care. So lung doctor, and then taking care of people in the intensive care unit. So that was like a 2-in-1 kind of fellowship. That was 3 years. So that brings it to 3. And then the last one that I have is hospice and palliative care. So I'm a palliative care physician, which means that I focus on providing support, holistic support for patients suffering from serious illness. So the idea is that you came to med school to help people. And then as you start being a doctor, you kind of feel like, maybe I'm not really helping people as much when you focus on just the lungs or just this. And palliative care really focuses on, hey, you have this disease and it's affecting your life. It's affecting your life physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, psychologically, socially, all these things. And we want to help you address all that suffering in all those different domains. We get training on communication. So learning how to have like serious illness communication so that people not only receive the information you're giving them, but they can interpret it in a way that makes sense to them. And they can take that information and do something with it. We are really good at helping people figure out like what's important to them, what values like drive their lives. And a lot of times people don't think about that. You ask somebody on the street, hey, what's your pillar? Like what drives you? And like people don't really know what to say too much. So helping them figuring that out and then tailoring everything we're doing towards those values. So that's what I do most of the time every day for people with like chronic organ failures and chronic lung disease and chronic kidney failure and heart failure and all these things. And then the other part of it is really focusing on end of life and helping people kind of plan for the future, plan for what things may be like, make decisions about continuing treatment or not continuing treatment if they want to focus on their quality of life, and then helping people die with dignity. And everything that comes with that, the existential distress, the social distress, the fear, the pain, like all of these things, that's what my last fellowship was. And then you mix it all together. And then I have like some days I'm a pulmonologist, some days I do things in the ICU, and some days I am just doing palliative care and listening to people talk about their lives,
I was about to ask, how does that manifest in like your day to day? You have these specialties,
Mm.
you just get pulled in all directions. How do you figure out what you're doing that day? Like,
Yeah. Well, Mondays I'm a pulmonologist.
oh, okay, so it is by day.
Yeah, so that day
Oh, interesting.
I have my pulmonary clinic and I see patients in pulm, and it's really fun because they get better and I get to give them inhalers and we get to look at their CT scans and I get to show them what their lungs look like, and it's fun. They get better, and sometimes I'm like, cool, I don't need to see you anymore. You're doing well.
Yeah.
Other days I do palliative care. So I have my clinic in palliative care. I take care of people who have, cancer symptoms or they're pain from whatever, or just helping them plan what their life is going to look like because they got diagnosed with a bad neurologic disease that's going to progress, and doing that. And that's fun too, because I get to explain things to people. And, I think people feel like my job is so sad, but like, it's really beautiful to see these things. And you get to see so much love and care that people have for one another that you don't get to see out in the street. And I feel very privileged and honored to be a part of that. And I get a front row seat of that. And it helps me really see the world in a much like better light, despite like dealing with dying every day. And then other days I'm one of the assistant program directors for one of the fellowships. So I do academic things and I do lectures and I teach things. And, that's kind of where it is. And then there's weeks where I'm just inpatient. I'm in the hospital taking care of people who are admitted or staying overnight. And so I just do that for the whole week. And so it just kind of flips back and forth depending on what's going on.
That's cool. That sounds like very Ramy. Just lots
Jumping
of variety,
around,
jumping
yeah.
around. You can do a little bit here, a little bit there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So now I want to go back to any advice for medical school, and then we can loop around to any career advice or life
Yeah.
advice, how to figure that out.
I think for medical school, I always tell people if they're applying to learn how they learn and really focus on it, even in college, even if they don't need it, because they're doing well to really learn how to do it. And then to find what drives their joy. What parts of your work bring you joy, and identify that stuff early, because that helps you figure out what you want to do. Work is hard and work is work. And there are days where you don't want to work and you want to be on the beach instead. But if you gravitate towards the things that you like and you find out what that is unique to you, then you can find your path in medicine that you enjoy and you don't get burnt out. And I think that's true for most things in life, but it's also a skill to learn what you like. That doesn't come easy. You don't just say, oh, I like this. What do you like about it? Why do you like this? Why does this make you feel good? And try to create that in different things that you're doing.
It makes a lot of sense, especially if you're the type similar to Ramy, who you're open to trying and exploring and being exposed to all these things. You're more likely to hit on those things that spark joy within you, things that you enjoy, that you gravitate towards. And I'm a big proponent of, if you don't know what your purpose, meaning is, then it's just to improve your self-awareness with reflection, with doing different things, seeing how the world bounces off of you and how you react to that. And I think you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest considerations, as I talk to a lot of people who early in their career, maybe in college or even younger than that, is the economy, the job market, but also college and school. And I enjoy doing this art thing, but also I need to pay the bills. And
Yeah.
obviously those are all real considerations. What advice, specific sort of things would you tell someone in that situation where maybe they do have an idea of something they might want to do, or they have all these interests on the side or whatever? Any general thoughts?
I think you just have to be honest with yourself about what you can actually do and what you can't. And listen to your elders, listen to people that have been doing this for a while. Learn from them what parts were hard for it, what parts were surprising to them. I think also part of the flip side of finding the things that bring you joy is also avoiding the things that you hate. And sometimes, like for me, I like a lot of things. I think if I had a path to be a lawyer, I would have liked being a lawyer. If I had a path to be like a therapist, I would have loved being a therapist. I like a lot of things. I'm blessed in that way. But there are certain things that I do not like. And there's certain things that make me feel like I don't like that feeling. I get tense. And it was more insightful for me to avoid those things than it was to chase the things that I found joy in. So it's also looking at that side and thinking like, what's your life going to look like in 5-10 years when you're doing this on the daily? And does that feel good? Are there enough parts about that fill your cup? And you limit some of the things that drain it so that you stay generally afloat.
I love that a lot. I think that's really insightful. All right. Any other last lingering thoughts on that? Otherwise, I want to ask you about travel before we go to rapid fire.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a masterclass. Just rewind the last 15 minutes. That was really good. Or at least I will. All right. Travel. I know you're a big travel enthusiast. Correct me if I'm wrong. I wanted to ask, how did you get into traveling? What role does it play in your life? What's your mindset on traveling, just in general?
I love traveling so much.
It's clearly.
I love getting on a plane and just like going somewhere. It's the thing that I will spend money on and not feel like, oh, I got to save it. Like, no, that's not what saving money is for. I grew up like going to Egypt every year when I was younger. My family's from Egypt. And so I would go and I'd spend months there and I'd see people. And my family, my grandma was a French teacher. My grandpa was an English teacher. My dad spoke like 5 languages. He lived all over Europe. So travel was kind of built into the lore of me growing up. We'd see pictures. My dad was in France. My dad was here. And I loved seeing how different people do things, It's like, whoa, this is what the library in Egypt looks like. Amazing. That's so different than ours. And, so I always enjoyed it. Then when I got older, I always liked traveling. It was always fun to like eat the food and try the things. But in I think it was like 2015, it's like my last year of med school. I was supposed to go to Japan with my cousin, and he backed out. It wasn't his fault. He like just couldn't go anymore because he was in school and he was studying. And so it was a week before, and I was stuck between going to Japan by myself for 2 weeks or not at all.
Let's guess.
I went, but I was terrified. I was so scared. I didn't speak any Japanese. I'd never traveled alone. I mean, I did. I would go to Egypt by myself, but I'd made that trip a long time. I speak Arabic. I have family there. It's okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'd go to Paris for a couple of days on the way to Egypt. Again, I spoke French. I knew I didn't speak very good French, but I understood it. I had people there. I'd been there before. It was fine. But Japan was completely alone. And it was like towards the end of med school. So I'd seen some things, you know? So there was a little darkness in my life. And it was like, what am I going to do with my thoughts for the 2 weeks? And I learned how to find the things that I like. You know, before that, it was like, oh, I love food. I'm like, what about eating food do I like? Or what about trying new foods do I like? What about walking through this area do I enjoy? What things do I not enjoy? And it was an actual like pretty hard trip mentally. Just trying to like be with myself for 2 weeks. No one spoke English. They don't need to speak English. Why? You know, and I was like, I'm not talking to anybody. I'm by myself. I'm staying in hostels. I'm having to entertain myself for 2 weeks with nothing else to do. I'm not studying. I'm not doing work. It's just a one thing. And I learned so much about myself during that trip. And I felt so free and I like just loved it that I just like kept going on solo trips. I took like 2 week solo trips every year for a while after that. Even like 2 summers ago, I went to Norway by myself for two weeks. And now I have people to go on trips with, and you know, but I still like to travel alone sometimes. That's kind of freeing in a way. So I've always loved doing that. I am so happy when my friends travel. Like I think I keep Instagram just so I can see people travel. And I get so excited.
Yeah.
If I know a friend of mine is going to be in Japan or they're going to be in Sweden, I'm just like, oh, this person's here this week. And all week I'm hype. Looking at their posts, I'm commenting on everything. Yeah. Probably super annoying, but I just love talking to people about it, helping them figure out what to do, what not to do. It's fun.
I like that.
Yeah. Gives me something to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like living vicariously through your friends as well. So really quick, favorite places to travel or favorite places you've traveled? And then I really want to ask, as a solo traveler, maybe some people aspire to do that as well. Any good advice you want to throw out there for solo traveling?
I think set yourself up for success. Don't go to a place where you're just going to be like outside and it's just nature for 2 weeks alone with no one to talk to. There's going to be times where you have to like find stimulation for yourself. So being in a city, I think is helpful. Figure out the language barrier. Do you want to not be talked to for 2 weeks, or do you want to have something where like, you know, there is some people? I think for solo traveling, for me, it was helpful to move around. So I'd stay a couple days in Edinburgh, then I go to a couple days to Glasgow. I'd go over here where they make, you know, the scotch I like. And, you know, you set yourself up for things to kind of keep you going. I'm not so good at that. Let me just sit in this cabin on the beach for 2 weeks alone. I can't stay with my thoughts for that long.
Yeah.
And I think just like be open to not making the most of it every moment all the time.
Like squeezing every ounce of it.
Yeah. There's going to be days where you just want to stay in the hotel or you just want to stay in the hostel because you're just kind of in your head and you're like kind of tired and you don't really want to go to the museum and you've been walking. It's okay to chill and not do anything that day. Stay in your room and just watch Netflix, just like you do at home. Don't feel bad, you know? There's days where it's okay to get a burger. You know, if you miss food that you like at home, like it's okay. So I think that is kind of like the advice that I give people, that you're not going to love it every time. And there's going to be places, I hope there are places you go and you don't like, you know? If you go and you love everything, then you're not being bold enough. If you try everything and you love everything, then you're not trying enough things. I love when I try something and I'm like, oh, no, never again. That's a fun experience, you know?
You have that story now. You're like, yeah, this thing, did not like it.
Yes. And to go to a city and to say, I don't ever want to come back here again.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So just leaving space for that. It's you know, I think chasing that too is nice. Favorite places to travel. I'm on a Japan kick recently. I've gone like 4 times now and I'm planning my 5th trip.
Same. Yeah. I'm already planning my next one too.
Yeah. And I feel bad about that because I know, like I talk to people who are Japanese and their families are there and like, I don't think the tourists are really wanted all the time, you know? And so it's like you have to find a way to do it in a way that is like sustainable, doesn't take away from the people that live there's experience. Right. So we go to like smaller areas where I hear, you know, we're wanted. I try to avoid Tokyo. I try to avoid things. I'm not like walking around neighborhoods late at night where people are living, even though it's cute. Like I just feel like I don't want to take away from their comfort. I'm trying to learn Japanese. I'm taking like in-person Japanese classes to just be a little more like integrated and not depend on them doing everything. I love Paris. It was like the first place I was ever like traveling alone, like for a couple days, and it was just always like we'll always have that place for me. I love Scandinavia. Norway was wonderful. New Zealand, I've always thought about, oh, if I go and I like move somewhere, I'd go to New Zealand. And, thinking about it realistically, like I don't really know that I would leave here. I think it's hard to set up life anywhere, and it's easy to romanticize that. But New Zealand was definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah. New Zealand is on my list. I've never been.
So beautiful. Oh my God.
Yeah, I bet. Do you have a bucket list of places you want to go but haven't gone yet?
I've always wanted to go to Ethiopia.
Oh yeah.
They have so I'm Coptic Catholic, so it's like it follows the Roman Catholic Church and the Pope in Rome, but we have our own kind of rites, and we do things in the Coptic, kind of like the ancient Egyptian language, not ancient like pyramid ancient, but the ancient after that.
Okay.
Like around Jesus' time, like we would speak in Coptic.
Jesus ancient.
Yeah, Jesus ancient, not pyramids ancient. Gotcha. And the sister church of this church is the Ethiopian church.
Oh.
So a lot of the iconography in our churches look very similar. A lot of their language sounds very similar. And they have these underground churches because they were prosecuted back then for being Christian. And they would dig it underground. So if you look around the horizon, you won't see anything. And I've just always wanted to go visit them. It was always be so cool. The food is great and the people seem so cool. And we always joke that Ethiopians are like our cousins. Mm. So I've always wanted to go. But there was a war a couple of years ago, and it just doesn't feel like the best time to just go gallivant around the country on my own.
Yeah.
For my mom's anxiety.
Right. Always got to consider the mom.
Yeah. But that's something that's on my bucket list that also I can't find anyone who also wants to join me. So.
Okay, I see. That's cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, you answered all of my questions, and I think we're right at time for rapid fire. Any last thoughts on travel you want to throw out there? Aside from do it and then just post stories and tag Ramy.
Just do it. You don't have to tag me. You don't have to do anything. You don't even have to tell me about it.
At Ramy. We'll send his Instagram and the link so you can just always tag him. Yeah. Cool. All right, let's move to rapid fire then.
Yeah.
Let's see. First question, billboard question. If you could put up a sign for millions of people to see, what would it say? Metaphorical, non-commercial.
I think something along the lines of everyone's doing the best with what they got. I think if we understood that, things would be a lot easier. I think that's what I would do. Yeah.
Like it. What is one of the hardest challenges you faced, and what did you learn from it?
I think when I was younger, realizing that not everybody thought like me, and learning, and that's I think where the philosophy thing came in, because I really wanted to understand why everybody felt differently. Because in my mind, it makes sense how I think, and realizing that that's not true for everybody, which means I can't control what other people do. I can't control how other people see, and lack of control has been a big thing in my life. So I think realizing I have no real control has been a hard thing, but a necessary thing to learn.
Quick tangent. Do you know what your Myers-Briggs is, personality?
I'm an E.
Okay, I know
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I say that because we took the test in med school and they give you percentages. I was 93% extroverted.
Yeah.
And the rest of them, I was 59 or 51% or 49%, the other three. So I don't think I'm pretty neutral on the other three.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
N and S and
yeah,
E.
I could be any of those because I'm just in the middle. So I just say I'm E.
Cool. You're E and then everything else.
Yeah, E and everything else.
Well, that checks out. Ramy has all the letters. He likes everything. So give him all the letters. If you could redo one thing, what would you do differently?
I think I would redo dancing. But bring with it the confidence. I think I would enjoy it a lot more and not have it be so oh, my worth as a person depends on what pieces I'm in and who put me in this and oh, I'm not attractive because I don't look like this person. All that stuff. But that's kind of coming of age. And so I think that was going to happen anyway. But I think it would be fun to do dancing again and be comfortable in my own skin.
Right.
Yeah.
It's crazy to say that because mindset really does change your experience of something. And so just going in, knowing who you are and being confident will vastly change your experience of something like dance, right?
Yeah.
I like that.
But then I don't think it would have been as meaningful for us if we felt that way.
Yeah.
Because then it wouldn't be so instrumental in our growth.
Yeah. Because we're discovering ourselves as we're doing that.
So maybe I wouldn't change it, but
It's a good answer.
Yeah.
It's a good answer.
Yeah. Thank you.
If you could give your younger self advice, what would it be? If we haven't already touched on it.
I think the lean into the things that make you different and stop trying to kind of be like everybody else. That sounds so cliche, but I think just really knowing that and being curious about yourself, just like I was curious about everybody else, be curious about myself instead of comparing the things I learn about everyone else to like, oh, I'm wrong for this, you know? I think that would be good. I would have had a different upbringing, you know?
Of course. In the last few years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has changed your life the most?
I was talking to somebody and they said something like, set everything up to like receive you in the best way.
Hmm.
So I was like, what does that mean? It's like, prepare for your future so that it's easiest for you. And like also like when you go to sleep at night, set everything up in your apartment well so that when you wake up in the morning, the room is ready to receive you. You're like a fresh start. And that has kind of prepping for those things and thinking about like future Ramy and past Ramy. I think I was talking to Alex and I was like, your two best friends should be like past Ramy and like future Ramy. Have a lot of grace and empathy for your past and don't like tell yourself you did all these horrible things. And then also do something for your future self. And like that kind of goes along the same path of like preparing things to receive you in the best way. That has helped me just like leave the house 15 minutes earlier so I'm not stressed coming here, like preparing for work in the morning so I'm not like, oh my God, I can't find my keys. That has made a big difference and has made life a lot more enjoyable, I think. Yeah.
I love that. It's like taking care of your future self.
Yeah.
The future part, right?
Yeah.
I love that answer. And my head was thinking, man, if I had to get through 86 episodes to get to that answer, it was worth it. Because I really liked it. I don't know how to, I'm being a little bit like, a little dramatic, but I really like that answer.
Yeah.
Were there any significant events in your life that shifted the way you see things, if at all?
I think like now I'm going through a big shift. I think like starting with the pandemic and like, I was like an intensive care physician like in the pandemic and I was like in the thick of it. And it was probably more traumatic than I'm willing to like admit to myself yet. But I think it really made me think about the finality of things and the fact that we really don't have any control. Again, control freak. I like to be in control. And that anything can go at any time. But in less of a like, oh my God, it's so sad, and more of like, I think the thing I've been trying to teach myself is like, I'm so worried that all these things are going to come and take away the stability I have and take away the comfort and the predictability and like all these good things I have. And I'm spending more time worrying about these things that may not happen and less time actually enjoying the things I'm so afraid to lose. And so I'm trying to be very intentional about what am I doing today to enjoy these things I'm so afraid to lose. And part of that is like moving back home. I was in San Francisco for a year. I was in Denver for a bit. So I can be here when my nieces and nephews are growing up and go to people's engagements and be there for their birthdays and go there for just take the walk outside with somebody or just by myself and like enjoy my parents when I have a free time and just go at home and like help them clean the garage if that's what they want, whatever it is. And I'm almost using my like really intense anxiety to like fuel the shift to enjoy life a little bit more to the fullest, And I think I deal with so much death and dying, and I talk to people about them dying every day. And it's just like look somebody in the face and say, hey, I don't think you have more than a few months left to live. And like, what am I doing to make sure that I'm enjoying the time? Because someone could look at me like that in a couple of weeks. I don't know. And it becomes this thing of fear that like I could die at any moment, but like it shouldn't fuel your anxiety. It should fuel your like, I don't know, your joy of life and the vitality you attack it with.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do that.
I like that. It's like that whole idea of, let's say you live forever. Where's the urgency? Where's the desire to live life?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. I like that a lot. I was going to say, so the control thing, you mentioned that, but also you have this strong desire for variety and all this other stuff. Maybe those aren't really antithetical, but I'm thinking of people who are more like, you want to control everything, but someone who's like very spontaneous, I guess, versus more organized. How do you reconcile those different pieces, I guess?
It's kind of like the type A person versus the type B person.
Yeah.
I'm very like, I think through everything and everything that could go wrong. I've thought about it and prepared for it, or at least I try to. So the things that I have no control over, I can't prepare for them. And I'll try and think of all these crazy things and I just can't do it. So the control freak comes in the having expectations and not, always being prepared. And I feel like I've grown up being a protector for people. So I want to protect my people. And then there's the other people who are just kind of do whatever. And and don't care, and they're just not thinking through all these things, they live just as long as everyone else. Yeah. They have just as much fun, if not more, than other people. And so it's what's authentic to me? What's my anxiety making me do? And then what's just normal Ramy behavior? And learning from people. A lot of my friends are type B, and it doesn't drive me crazy anymore. I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's fine. The dishes could stay in the sink tonight. That's not a big deal. Or we can just go somewhere and not know how we're going to get there. If we miss our flight, we miss our flight. That one's hard for me. But trying to learn from them a little bit and be less control-y, because I don't really have that much control anyway.
Right. Control is just an illusion.
It's just an illusion.
I like it. How do you define success?
I think if you are having a lot of meaningful moments in your life, I feel that is successful. And I say that as opposed to saying if you have a lot of joy in your life. I think joy is very important, but it's only part of life. There needs to be pain. There needs to be sadness, because that means there's also great joy and happiness and love. So you need to have a lot of meaningful moments. And I think that's successful, whether that in your work or you have it in your life, you have it in your social circles, you have it by yourself. I think that is successful.
I like that. Meaning, right?
Yeah.
What's something you've been pondering recently, or something that you often think about deeply?
Somebody told me, actually it was last week, they were like, I was talking about the stuff I'm anxious about, and they were like, how arrogant it is of us to be anxious about world events. How conceited are we to worry about this? And it really struck me. I was like, what do you mean? It's because I care about the world and I care about what happens to people. And it kind of springs into this thing of you are so insignificant when it comes to these things, that is a little bit freeing in a way, I worry about the war. I worry about AI taking people's jobs. I worry about climate change. I worry about Ebola. And what am I doing to help those things? I worry about it as if I can influence it. And there's a point where you can be aware and thoughtful about it, and you can donate money, you can do these things and go to rallies, but I can't do anything for that. So let me free myself of that responsibility. I can still care without trying to be in charge, So I've been trying to grapple with that, because wow, I'm really arrogant to be so worried, as if I could do something.
As if it's your problem and you can fix it.
Yeah. Or as if I understand things better than everyone else. Why am I looking at the data as if I'm going to come to a more correct conclusion than everyone else, So trying to use that to build some humility.
I like it. Do you have a favorite hot take, or something that you think most people would disagree with, that you think is absolutely true?
I believe in using the dishwasher as a dishwasher and not a drying rack. It saves water, it saves time. I think it's better. And I believe in written calendars. I got this year, it was the first year in 15 years I had a written calendar. Life is so much easier.
Yeah.
I've always used Google Calendar and all these things, but a written calendar, man, it's really great.
How do you use it? So is it on the walls? Is it on your desk?
No, it comes with me.
Oh, so it's like a notebook.
So I write. It's like a notebook, and I write things in the month, and then things in the day, and then I check it every day for things I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I'm not thinking about it all the time.
Why do you think that changes your experience as opposed to a digital format?
Because I can use it better. Because it's in real life. The digital format doesn't feel real. I can't touch it.
Okay, so just the sensory experience of having. Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
And being able to flip through it. It's here, so I have to look at it. Whereas on my phone, I don't look at it.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, I understand.
Yeah,
I can't relate. I know. Because I do flip. I neurotically look at my calendar. It's my notes and my calendar that I'm always on. 90% of the time. But I totally get that.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely value in a lot of analog things that we take for granted.
Yeah. I do. I like that. I write notes down. Yeah. I don't use anything on the computer.
It does, though. I would say recommend for the audience to. The act of getting things from your brain into paper or wherever is very freeing, because now you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And for me, writing it is one of the ways I learned better. So writing it down, I'm going to remember it better. Typing it in my phone feels like I'm texting, and I don't.
And it disappears, and it's a ghost. Yeah, I get it. Okay, well, we're almost there. So what do you think are some of the differences between how you see yourself versus how others see you?
I just think I'm just doing my best. I don't think I'm anything special. And I think I've been very fortunate that people have always really celebrated me, especially becoming a doctor, through dance scene. People still call me Dr. Ramy. That is my nickname now. And I don't think that
Dr. Ramy MD.
And I don't think that I did anything special. I don't think I did anything different. I just followed the things I like, just like everyone else does,
Yeah.
So to me, I'm not that impressed with myself. Not saying everyone's impressed with me, but like I feel a lot of pride in my friends when they think about me and they talk about me, and that's really nice. But I wish that they knew I felt the same way about them, or they felt the same way about themselves, because we're all just doing our best, you know? Yeah.
I like that. You know, it's I'm gonna butcher this quote, but it's like some people are so poor all they have is money. And I think like having the admiration of the people that you care about is quite a thing, you know? Dr. Ramy MD.
Oh God.
Last one. Favorite recent purchase in the $50 to $100 range, or relatively cheap, that has impacted your life the most?
It's that calendar,
Oh,
that
here we
paper
go.
calendar.
Okay, is there a specific type, brand, or just whatever?
Oh, I just got whatever
Gotcha.
was cheap. It was like Amazon $8. Like that
Perfect.
just helped me.
All right, I'll Amazon affiliate link whatever calendar I find and be like, Dr. Ramy MD.
No, go buy it from the
recommends
store. It's
it.
probably better.
No, it definitely is. I just wanted an affiliate commission for 10 cents.
You deserve it.
Thank you. All right, you made us to end the rapid fire. Thank you so
we
much.
did it.
We'll do ending questions. So we always end with gratitude. Shout out to my mom for teaching me this. Ramy, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for my community. I'm grateful for the people around me that give me things to strive for and things to be excited about and things to be sad about. And, you know, I think life would not be what it is without the people I'm with. And I keep realizing that over and over again.
I like it. Any final ask from the audience or any final takeaways you'd like them to have from this conversation?
No, not really. I think I've said everything else. I'm just really thankful that, you know, you asked me to be here and to be part of this. And it feels really nice to kind of reconnect with you. And I'm excited to see where you keep going with this.
Thank you. Likewise. I appreciate it. And happy to have you here. I assume where they can find you, social media, I'll link it in the description, but is that the best place for them to find you, or should they stalk you, email you, LinkedIn?
I think the Instagram's the only thing that I really have. I don't even think I have a LinkedIn account.
Okay.
I might, but I don't use it. So I think that's the best way.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So, well, thank you again, Ramy. We'll wrap this up. I really appreciate you. Honestly, I'm not glazing you, but I could listen to you talk for 3 hours. And so I think it's good we have this sort of 1 hour thing. We can protect your time. So I really appreciate you.
Let's hope
for all of our sakes, it's only 1 hour. But so thank you again. I'm going to be re-listening to this a lot. I think you dropped a lot of nuggets of wisdom. And so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And we'll do our final sign off. So thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave us 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening to. Leave us, especially Ramy, love in the comments below. If you are traveling, tag Ramy.
We'll his Instagram. Even if I don't know you.
Even if he doesn't know yet, just tag him and he'll live vicariously through your travels. And a reminder to always be kind to other people, especially yourself. And remember that you can always learn something from someone if you take the time to listen. So thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.